Hello and welcome back. Dear learners, in this series we have been talking about the origin of the Russian language. We have also talked about its nature and structure. While discussing about the Russian alphabet, now we know that in Russian language we have 33 letters in its alphabet. These letters of the Russian alphabet are further classified according to the consonants and vowels. We have also talked about that how these consonants and vowels are pronounced individually and how the pronunciation of these vowels and consonants are different when they are joined together. With the help of this exercise, now we have a good number of such words which add up to our vocabulary of Russian language. With the help of simple sentences and with the usage of da and nyat in Russian, now we know how to make affirmative and negative sentences in Russian. We have also seen that how the intonation plays a vital role in Russian speech, as interrogative sentences have been used with the help of intonations and putting the question marks at the end. The usage of personal pronouns and possessive pronouns in Russian, which also been used in several sentences. Verbs in Russian language is another aspect which we have discussed in a very detailed manner. In the previous lessons, you have learned about the verb conjugations according to their categories, which is entirely depending upon the endings. Now, you also know that there is a separate category of verbs which are called verbs of motion in Russian. Certain questions like "что" means what and "кто" which means who have all been used in our sentences. With the help of all these expressions, now in Russian language we will be able to create our own sentences. We have also been discussing about the agreement between the adjectives and noun endings, and accordingly initially in the previous lessons we have discussed about the role of certain cases in Russian, right from the imenительный падеж till the творительный падеж. As you already know that in Russian there are 6 cases. These are именительный падеж, винительный падеж, предложный падеж, дательный падеж, родительный падеж and творительный падеж. We will be discussing more about these cases when we have their own detailed lessons. Now, presently, as we are discussing the usage of prepositions in Russian, as the endings of adjectives according to their genders of masculine gender, feminine gender and neuter gender are being discussed. We have seen in the earlier lesson that how the ending of a noun is playing an important role when it qualifies to be with its adjective. Now, we already know that in gender in Russian language there are nouns which ends with hard consonants with soft signs etc. belong to the masculine gender. Certain nouns which ends with a, ya and iya belongs to the feminine gender, and accordingly there are nouns which ends in o, ye and ea, they belong to the neuter gender, and accordingly there is a set of adjectives which are also be qualified with noun endings are changing into om yem, o e kratki and om yem again when they are paired with adjectives in prepositional case. We will be learning more about the endings of such adjectives in this lesson. We will be discussing in detail with the help of certain text and dialogues, so that you will be able to understand how to use these expressions in your day-to-day communication of Russian. So, shall we go ahead? Please pay attention to the slide. Here, if we start understanding the usage of the ending of adjectives in genders like the masculine gender at first, we need to remember that if ending of an adjective it ends with ee kratki, which is preceded by g, k and kh, the adjective will change into om. For example, like maling ki sath changes into malinkam sadhu when question gije is asked. Likewise, Cikhi ocean w Cichym oceanie, Moskovski uniwersytet, Moskovskim uniwersytecie, Chemiczny zawod na chemicznym zawodzie are changing, and Mathematycki fakultet is changing into na mathematyckim fakultecie. Here, if we pay attention to the ending of these adjectives, all of them are preceded by g, k and kh. Dear learners, now we have just a glimpse of a rule which has been created in Russian language, so that learners of this language can understand deeply the aspect of this language. All adjectives endings which are preceded by g, k and kh are changing into om, like malinki, chikhi, etc. Accordingly, in the nouns and adjectives of feminine gender, the rule applies. Let us understand how they are changing. We have adjective endings like aya. Now, when a rule applied in a prepositional case, they are changing into oi kratki when question is gdzie. Let me give you a few examples. Novaya kvarchira changes into novai kvarchire. Accordingly, lubimaya strana changes into lubimai stranie. Malinkaya ulitsa changes into na malinkai ulitse. Cichaya dzirevnia v cichai dzirevnia. Большая фабрика на большой фабрике, and Maladaya Respublika changes into v Maladoi Respublike. If you pay attention to the ending of the adjectives which are being used in these examples, all of them are having ending aya, whether it is Novaya, Balshaya, Maladaya, Gradskaya, etc. They are changing into o i kratki. This you need to remember whenever you are using these adjective endings along with nouns in your own sentences. Let us go to the next section where we will talk about the endings of the neuter gender. These adjectives and noun endings of the neuter gender, since we have already talked about that, more or less they are changing like as we have seen in the case of masculine gender. Please pay attention. Сегодняшняя газета, сегодняшняя деревня and последняя выставка. These are the three examples which belong to the feminine gender. After this, we will go to the neuter gender. Let us understand the meaning, that how these adjective endings are changing. Сегодняшняя ending with yaya changes into сегодняшняей, ye and e kratki. Accordingly, соседняя changes into соседной, последняя is changing into последней. Dear learners, in the category of feminine gender adjectives and nouns, these adjective endings which is ending with yaya like последняя and соседняя, they are changing into ye kratki. This rule you need to be remember and apply whenever you are using them in your own sentences. Now, we will go to the next section. Please pay attention to the sentences. Here, this is a list of certain adjective and nouns of neuter gender as we have discussed. Here again, if you pay attention to the first example, novaya okno is changing into novam oknie. As we already know that the noun endings in prepositional cases change. Now, the adjective endings will act accordingly as we have seen in the case of masculine gender adjectives. Новое changes into новом. Большое общежитие в большом общежитии. Here большое changes into большом. Likewise, молодой changes into молодом, маленькое changes into маленьком, and тихое changes into тихом. So, if you pay attention, more or less most of the endings of these adjectives are changing according as if we have seen in the case of masculine gender adjectives and nouns. Here in the prepositional case, all adjectives are changing of masculine gender and of neuter gender similarly, but in the case of feminine gender they are entirely different, like we have just learned. Now, we will go to the next section where we will talk about certain examples where these endings of adjectives along with nouns are being used. Please pay attention to certain such examples. There are a different category of such adjectives of the neuter gender where it ends with ye, like хорошее кресло. Here хорошее is changing into хорошим. Here any adjective which is ending with ye, it will always change into yem. For example, хорошее is changing into хорошим. Сегодняшнее changes into сегодняем and соседнее changes into соседнем. Accordingly, you can add your own nouns whenever you are making your own sentences, but please remember that noun endings and adjective endings should be in agreement. So, more or less we have just discussed about how the noun endings as well as adjective endings qualify and agree in terms with each other when we talk about them in prepositional case. Now, we will be going to the next section where we will discuss about them with the certain examples. With the help of these examples, you will be able to understand them in a very detailed manner. Please see, there are certain nouns have been used like India, Delhi, Russia and Moscow. As we already know that they mean name of a place, country, town, etc. With the help of these nouns, we are changing them into adjectives. Please remember that these following adjectives have been derived from the name of countries / cities, like India. It is a noun, it changes into Injiyskiy. I will give you a few examples of it. Я живу в Индии. I live in India. Это индийский костюм. This is an Indian suit. Индийская культура, Indian culture. Accordingly, we can use the noun Delhi. Я живу в Delhi. With the preposition we are using, but Delhi remains same. Много студентов учатся в Делийском университете. So, Delhi has been used as an adjective along with universitet and it has been changed into в Делийском университете. Moskva is another example. It has been changed into Moskovsky. Let us take another example. Много людей едут в офис на московском метро. So, here we have used another examples that how the adjective Moskovsky has been changed according to the usage of noun. Moskovskaya metro, since metro is a neuter gender word. Accordingly, it qualifies its adjective to be ends with oye. Moskovskaya metro. And Russia, which means Russia, can also be used, can also be changes into an adjective form like Российский университет дружбы народов. For example, the People's Friendship University, as it called in Russian. These are the certain examples you can also make by yourself, and with the help of your existing knowledge of Russian, you can make simple sentences and in the form of a text you can express. Let us go to the next section now. Here we will be discussing more about such other names of countries and we will derive adjective from their nouns. They are Italia, which means Italy, Italiansky, Italian, Francia, France, Francuski, French, Kitai, China, Kitaisky, Chinese, Iponia, Japan, Iponsky, Japanese, America, America, Amerikansky, American, and Anglia. means England, angliski, English. So here with the help of certain set of adjectives and nouns, you can use them in your own sentences. For example, Япония очень богатая страна. Japan is a very rich country. Англия это очень маленькая страна. England is a small country. India самая большая демократия. India is the largest democracy. For example, you can also use such other nouns and adjectives in certain expressions. Каждый год много людей едут в Китай. В китайском университете очень много студентов учатся. Это китайская литература. Это американская литература. Such other expressions can also be made in all such expressions which we have just learned. That is why in Russian, when we use certain nouns and adjectives, they complement each other, and we derive noun from adjective and adjectives from the noun. Let us go to the next section and see that how such other nouns have been used to derive adjectives from them. Philosophia, philosophy, philosophy, philosophical. История, history, исторический, historical. Студент, student, студенческий, students. Физика, physics, физический, physical. Химия, chemistry, and химический, it is an adjective derived from the noun химия, which means chemical. Accordingly, биология, биологический, математика, математический, philologia, philologический, geographia, geographический. But since we have already talked about that there are certain exceptions in Russian, that is why from the noun nauka we are changing it into naучный. Accordingly, you can also use all these nouns and the adjectives derived from them in your own sentences. In Russian phonetics, since it is very rich, one need to remember the fundamental rules of Russian language. Let us go to the next slide and pay attention to the words. Dear learners, since you have just read this sentence, Его брат живет в маленьком городе. Here we have used the conjugated forms of verbs. Here жить has been used, and accordingly a preposition в has been placed before the adjective and noun. Его брат живет в маленьком городе. That is why for indicating location, preposition в or na is placed immediately after the verb. It is also advised to you that whenever you are making your own sentences, you immediately place va or na after the verb for indicating place. Я живу в Дели. Я живу в маленьком городе. Я живу в Финляндии. Я живу в Москве. So for indicating a place, we are exactly using va or na soon after the usage of verb in its conjugated form. Let us go to the next slide and listen to how these possessive pronouns, which we already know that in Russian we have moi toi, nash vash, io, ik, and soy for answering the question где. As we already know that in Russian for whose we have been using chei, means whose, and according to the genders it changes. Chei, cha, chyo, and chi. Please pay attention that how this chi, cha, chyo, and chei are used in Russian. Chei это карандаш, чья это рубашка, чье это окно, чьи эти вещи. Here, if you pay attention to the usage and pronunciation, Chei is indicating masculine gender. Chei eta karandash, whose pencil is this? Chia eta rubashka, whose shirt is this? Chio eta okno, whose window is this? And chi echi veshi, whose things are these? So accordingly, in this context, we will use chei, chia, chio and chi with certain examples. Please pay attention to the slide again. Moi gorad, mayom goradje, tvoi dom, vtayom dome, nash muzej, našem muzее, vaš institut, vašem institute. But if we are using его, ее, slovar, it remains same, it doesn't change, it remains его, ее, slovarje. Whereas the only rule applies is the change in the ending of the noun. Accordingly, all these possessive pronouns like moi, tvoi, его, ее, nash, vaš and ik and soi will be used. As we have just discussed that how nash is changing into nashim, vash is changing into vashim, moi is changing into mayom, tvoi is changing into tvayom, but его, ее remains same. We need to pay attention to the ending of the nouns, and rules of the prepositional case applies to the ending of nouns as we have learned in the previous lessons. Please pay attention to the next slide and understand the fundamental rules applied in the case of usage of possessive pronouns in Russian with the help of certain examples. In the case of feminine gender nouns, for example, моя родина, твоя комната, наша деревня, ваша аудитория, they are changing to на моей родине, в твоей комнате, нашей деревне and вашей аудитории. But accordingly, его, ее doesn't change. The only change is again at the end of the nouns. So, if we just discuss about the endings of nouns which belong to the feminine gender, for example, моя комната, it changes into в моей комнате. Here, we need to understand that with the help of possessive pronouns in Russian, его, ее always remains same, but the noun ending of these nouns are changing according to the rules applied in the case called prepositional case. Let us go to the next section and understand how changes are being made in the neuter gender. As we already know that all adjectives and nouns of neuter gender, they complement each other, they agree with each other so that they give a correct expression. Like большое окно, мое окно, в моем окне. Accordingly, в твоем письме, нашем поле, etc. These are the examples which you can use in the neuter gender, but ее, его remains same. Again, the only change would be in the ending of the nouns. Let us have a look. Мое общежитие, в моем общежитии, твое письмо, в твоем письме, наше поле, на нашем поле, ваше слово, в вашем слове. Again, if we pay attention that письмо, поле, слово, общежитие, these four nouns when used in the possessive pronouns, they are changing into моем общежитии, твоем поле, etc. But его, ее remains same. The only change is into the endings of the noun. So, dear learners, now since we have discussed about the endings of the adjectives in masculine gender, feminine gender and neuter gender, we have also seen that how the usage of va or na is used just before we use the verb in any sentence. We have also seen that the usage of possessive pronouns in Russian in the case of prepositional case, that how the possessive pronouns are too changing, like моем, твоем, нашим, вашим, but yivo, io and ik remains same. We will be discussing more about such aspects of Russian language in our coming lesson. Since we have discussed that in Russian language there are certain aspects, especially the role of verb play an important role. In our next lesson, we will be discussing with the help of certain examples that how verbs are being conjugated in such a form that in prepositional case when questions asked, for example, like we have already learned about что and кто, which means what and who. Examples of such verbs used with о чем and о ком, which means about what and about whom. We will be constructing such other sentences in Russian where we will discuss about the usage of где, о ком and о чем in Russian. This all will be comprising in the case called the prepositional case, where prepositions are used, and that is why it has derived its name from that. Here we will conclude this lesson with certain such expressions which we have learned, like let us repeat according to the gender. We have learned dobre utro. Utro ends with o, that is why we have used the adjective dobre. Dobry dень. Dень is masculine gender, that is why we have used the adjective dobry. And dobry вечер. Here again we have used вечер, which belongs to the masculine gender, that is why the adjective is dobry. Dear learners, you can also find out all such nouns which we have learned throughout the series so far and put adjectives and place them with the help of the acquired knowledge. With this, we will conclude this session. Thank you.